Dear students, in the previous classes you studied about electrostatics. That means the various phenomena associated with the charges being at rest. Today, I am going to start a new topic, that is current electricity. See, this current electricity, it comes under the study of electrodynamics. So here, first you have to understand what is this electric current. See, the word current, it refers to a brisk flow. Current means a brisk flow. You might have heard of water current, air current, wind currents, like that. So a brisk flow, it is called as a current. Here electric current means flow of charges constitutes electric current. So flow of charges constitute current. So when charges are moving, they are said to be electric current. Now this question will arise, when charge moves? To understand that, you consider this example. Here this is one charged conductor. This is another charged conductor. So every charged conductor has got a potential. So this conductor is charged to a potential V. This conductor is charged to a potential V dash. That means the potentials of these two conductors are different. Say, let V be greater than V dash. That means this conductor is at a higher potential compared to this one. When there exists a potential difference between these two conductors, charge cannot flow from one conductor to another conductor because there is no conducting medium. Here air is there, which is insulator. Air is an insulator. So, though there is a potential difference between these two conductors, charge cannot flow from one conductor to another. Suppose I join these two conductors by means of a wire, like this. By using a wire, I join these two conductors. Then what happens? Charge flows from the body of higher potential to another body of lower potential. So when charge is flowing like this, there is said to be a current. So when two bodies are at a different potential, or when there exists a potential difference, when there is a conducting medium, due to this potential difference, charge flows from one to another, that constitutes a current. So potential difference is responsible for current. Now charge move from one body to another body till these potentials become equal. You will observe current here till the potentials of these two become equal. Understand? So when two charged bodies are connected, are kept in contact with each other, charge will flow from a body of higher potential to a body of lower potential, I mean positive charge. So positive charge will flow from a body of higher potential to a body of lower potential till their potentials become equal. Suppose if I maintain a steady potential difference always by using some external source, I keep on giving charge here and also I keep on giving charge to this, such that this potential difference always exists, then there will be a steady current, there will be a continuous current. So when you apply a constant potential difference, then there will be a steady current between the two conductors here. This is just like a flow of a liquid between two conductors connected when there is a difference in hydrostatic potential. Here this is one container which contains some liquid, say water, up to here. This is another container. This is another container. So which contains water up to here. The hydrostatic potential here and here, it is different. When I join these two conductors by means of a pipe like this, obviously water from this container, it flows to the other container like this. Water flows like this till their hydrostatic potentials become equal like this. So because of this difference in hydrostatic potential, water flows from higher potential body to lower potential body till their potentials become equal. This is a similar analogy to this. So when there is a potential difference, current will flow, electric current will flow till their electric potential become equal. If you could maintain a steady potential difference like this, then there will be a steady current. So like this, potential difference makes the charge to move from one point to another point. This type of motion of charge constitutes current. Now this is measured as, electric current is measured as quantity of charge flowing across any section of the conductor per second. Understand? A net flow of charge across any section of conductor per second, it is how electric current is measured. So this I, it is written as Q divided by T. This is the expression for electric current. So here, this electric current is measured as net flow of charge per second across any section of a conductor. So I is equal to Q by T. It will give you the steady current. Suppose if the current is not steady, so if a charge delta Q crosses any section of a conductor in time t, in time delta t, then this current, it is written as limit delta t tends to 0, delta q divided by delta t, which is dq divided by dt. When the current is not steady or when the current is variable, then the amount of current is measured like this. It is the limiting value of average current So this is called instantaneous current. Instantaneous current. In case of steady current, we write it is Q divided by T. When the current is not steady, it is variable, then instantaneous current is measured like this. It is the limiting value of flow of charge per unit time. Now this unit of current is, SI unit of current is ampere, symbolically represented as capital A. You learned that electric current is one of the fundamental quantities in SI system. While defining the various units in SI system, I have given you the definition for ampere also in terms of force between two conductors carrying current. So actually from this equation, if a charge of 1 coulomb crosses any section of conductor in 1 second, strength of current is said to be 1 ampere. That's the definition. So if a charge of 1 coulomb crosses any section of the conductor in 1 second, current is said to be 1 ampere. So you can define ampere like this from this equation. But according to SI system, ampere is defined as it is that current passing in two infinitely long straight conductors separated by a distance of 1 meter in air, if there exists a force of 2 into 10 to the power of minus 7 Newton per meter, length of each. So this is the definition according to SI system. So 1 ampere is the strength of the current passing through two infinitely long straight conductors separated by 1 meter in air, if there exists a force of 2 into 10 to the power of minus 7 Newton per meter. So if you are asked to write the definition of ampere, you need to write this definition. You come across this definition in the next chapter while studying the magnetic and mechanical effect of electric current. So, time being, you just remember this definition. You come across this definition once again in the preceding chapter. So this electric current, it is a scalar quantity. Electric current is a scalar quantity because the magnitude of current does not change with the direction. Say here, if a conductor is straight like this, or if I bend the conductor like this, the amount of current in that is not going to change. So from that sense, we can say that current is a scalar. Or otherwise, this is a scalar, this is a scalar, obviously this will become a scalar quantity. But the conventional direction of current, in case of DC, we give direction for the current. The conventional direction of current is the one along which the positive charge moves. So, conventional direction of current is the one in which positive charge moves are opposite to flow of electrons, because electrons are negatively charged particles. Say, under the influence of positive potential, when current is flowing, that means when charges are moving, the direction along which the positive charge moves, that is called as the direction of current. So when current is flowing, charges are in motion. The direction along which a positive charge moves is considered to be the direction of current. So if a positive charge is moving in this direction, then this becomes the direction of current. And also, so if a positive charge is moving like this, this becomes the direction of current. If a negative charge is moving like this, then also the direction of current is same. Because motion of positive charge in one direction, it is same as the motion of negative charge in the opposite direction. Therefore, the conventional direction of current is the direction along which positive charge moves, or it is opposite to the direction of motion of electrons, because electrons are negatively charged particles. So based on this idea, in the examination some questions will be asked like this. See, a positive charge Q1, it flows in this direction, and a negative charge Q2, it flows in the opposite direction. What is the net current? I, it will become Q1 plus Q2 divided by 2. Because due to this current, due to this positive charge moving in this direction, and due to the negative charge moving in the other direction, the direction of current will be same. Therefore, the current is equal to Q1 plus Q2 divided by T. So in time T, this much of positive charge is moving in this direction, this much of negative charge is moving in this direction, then what is the net current means? It is Q1 plus Q2 divided by 2. Similarly, if a charge Q1, it is moving in this direction, and a charge Q2, it is moving in this direction in time T, then what is the net current means? I is equal to Q1 minus Q2 divided by T. Because the direction of current due to the motion of negative charge is opposite to the direction of current due to the motion of positive charge. Due to the motion of this positive charge in this direction, there is a current in this direction. Due to the motion of this negative charge in this direction, there is a current in the opposite direction. Because of this statement. Therefore, the net current will become Q1 minus Q2 divided by T. So, you remember this statement. Based on these statements, you can expect these type of questions in the examination, numerical problems. So, always a direction of current means it is the direction along which positive charge moves, or the direction of current is always opposite to the direction of motion of negative charge or electrons, like that. So because of that statement, you come across these two cases. Next, electric current in conductors. See, basically, motion of any sort of charge constitutes current. That means positive charge, that means protons, electrons or ions. So any charged particle in motion constitutes current. In case of conductors, electric current is due to the motion of electrons. If you take a conductor, there will be plenty of free electrons. So the motion of these free electrons constitutes current. In case of liquids like electrolytes, current is due to motion of positive ions as well as negative ions. Similarly, in case of gases, current is due to the motion of these ions. So any type of charge in motion leads to current. So here I am talking about exclusively conductors. So in conductors, the current is mainly due to electrons, because in the introduction to electrostatics I told you about these conductors, semiconductors and insulators. Conductors are those materials which have large free electron density, that is nearly 10 to the power of 29 per meter cube. So in conductors, this free electron density, that means number of free electrons per unit volume, it is of the order of 10 to the power of 29 per meter cube. 29 electrons per meter cube. So this much a large free electron density will be there in conductors. That's why these conductors, they have very good electrical and thermal properties. See, if you consider any conductor like this. In a conductor, these atoms or ions, they will be sitting at definite positions, which is called lattice. So there will be a periodic three-dimensional arrangement of atoms like this. So in metals or in many solids, there will be a regular three-dimensional periodic arrangement of atoms like this. These atoms are held by means of strong intermolecular forces. They are not capable of moving from one point to another point. They are held by means of strong intermolecular forces. That is why these solids they have definite size and shape. So in these atoms, the electrons present in the outermost shells, they being loosely bound to the nucleus, even at a room temperature, they gain sufficient amount of energy to come out of this atom. So for every atom there is a nucleus and electrons revolving around this nucleus. So the electrons present in the last or outermost shells, they are very loosely bound to this nucleus. Therefore thermal energy, the energy at room temperature, it is sufficient for the electron to come out of the influence of this nucleus of this atom. So when the electron comes out, this becomes an ion. So like this, in a conductor, there will be large number of ions at the lattice and there will be large number of free electrons. Due to absorption of thermal energy, these ions at the lattice, they will be in a state of oscillation. They are called lattice vibrations. Due to absorption of thermal energy, these ions at the lattice, they are in a state of vibration. And also, due to absorption of thermal energy, these free electrons, they gain kinetic energy. Because of that, these free electrons, they will be moving randomly inside the solid. So these free electrons, they are capable of moving freely inside this conductor. And further, there will be a boundary here, there will be a surface potential. So this surface potential prevents the escape of these electrons. This surface potential does not allow the electrons to come out of the solid. So overall, what I mean to say is, inside this metal, these free electrons are in random motion at room temperature. This type of random motion of electrons, that means this type of random motion of these charged particles does not lead to any current. Because if I consider any cross section of this conductor like this, if I consider any cross section of the conductor, due to random motion, number of electrons moving from my left to right, it will be equal to number of electrons moving from right to left. So at any instant, the number of electrons crossing this cross section will be equal and opposite to the electrons crossing the other direction. So at room temperature, though there is a flow of electrons, there is no net flow of electrons across any cross section, and hence there will be no current. So at room temperature, in a conductor, though the electrons are in motion, there will be no current because these electrons are in random motion. Random motion leads to crossing of charge one side equal and opposite to the other side. Therefore, there is no net flow of charge across any section of the conductor, hence there will be no current. Now, if I apply a potential difference like this, when I apply a potential difference means one side the electric potential must be higher, another side the electric potential must be lower. Say for example, I kept a positively charged disc in contact with this end of the conductor and a negatively charged disc at this end of the conductor. You just imagine that I keep a positively charged disc in contact with this end and a negatively charged disc in contact with this end. So this is at a higher potential, this is at a lower potential, so there will be a potential difference. Because of this potential difference, there is an electric field inside this conductor. Because you know that E is equal to minus dV by dr. Electric field is the negative gradient of electric potential. So if the potential is a constant, that means if I apply a constant potential difference within a length L here, this much of electric field will be there between the two ends. In an electric field, charged particles experience force. F is equal to Q into E. These things you learned in electrostatics. So in electric field, charged particles experience force. The positively charged particle experience force along the direction of electric field. Negatively charged particle experience force opposite to the direction of electric field. You learned these things in electrostatics. So these electrons, under the influence of this potential difference and this electric field, they tend to move in this direction. Understand? These free electrons which are there inside the conductor under the influence of this electric field, they tend to accelerate opposite to the direction of electric field. In such a situation, the number of electrons moving across this cross section in this direction, they will be more than the number of electrons moving in the opposite direction. So electric field is in this direction. Therefore, more number of electrons will be crossing across this section in this direction rather than this direction. Therefore, there is a net flow of charge in this direction. Hence, there will be a net current in the conductor. So this potential difference drives charges across any section. So there is a net flow of charge and hence there will be a current in the conductor. So this flow of electrons or current in the conductor is observed as long as this potential difference is there. If the potential difference disappears, then the current becomes zero. If I maintain a constant potential difference here, then there is a constant current through this conductor. Like this, whenever you apply a potential difference, there will be a current in a conductor. So this is how current flows in a conductor when you apply a potential difference. So when I apply a potential difference V, due to which there will be electric field E, and hence electrons experience force opposite to the direction of electric field. So across any section of the conductor there is a net flow of charge and hence there is a current. Now the amount of current and the applied potential difference relation between them, it is given by Ohm's law. So you studied about this Ohm's law even in SSLC. This Ohm's law is a fundamental law in electrodynamics. Just like Newton's laws are fundamental to mechanics. Newton's laws are fundamental laws for mechanics. Similar to that, this Ohm's law is the fundamental law in current electricity or electrodynamics. So this Ohm's law says that current passing through any conductor, it is directly proportional to potential difference applied across its ends, provided temperature and other physical conditions of the conductor remain same. So this is the statement. So current in a conductor is directly proportional to potential difference applied across its ends, provided temperature and other physical conditions remains same. So this current is I, this potential difference is V. According to Ohm's law, current is directly proportional to potential difference, provided temperature and physical conditions remains same. Same means constant. So this is the statement, and according to this statement we symbolically write like this: I proportional to V, and this V is equal to I into R. This is the expression for Ohm's law, where this R is a proportionality constant, which is constant for a given conductor at a given temperature. This is called electrical resistance of the conductor, where R is a constant for given conductor known as electrical resistance of the conductor. So in the examination, if you are asked to state Ohm's law, you need to write this much. See, this Ohm's law is applicable under this condition. temperature must be same. Physical conditions means conditions like tension, conditions which alter the dimensions of the conductor should not be there. That's what you mean by physical conditions remain same. So, this electrical resistance, this term you have to understand. See, resistance means opposition. See, whenever something is in motion, always there will be opposition to it. When a liquid is flowing, there will be an opposing force which is called viscous force. When a body is moving in air, there is an opposing force which is called friction, air friction, which opposes the motion of the body in air. Like that, whenever something is in motion, always there will be an opposition to it. Here in this case, when current is flowing through the conductor, electrons are in motion. There will be an opposition to the flow of electrons, or there will be an opposition to the current. That opposition offered by the conductor to the flow of current, it is called electrical resistance. So resistance means it is opposition to the flow of current. When you apply potential difference, there will be a current. This current will be there against this resistance. There will be opposition to the flow of current, and that opposition to the flow of current is called as resistance. So against this resistance, potential difference drives the current. Since this V is equal to IR, this R can be written as V divided by R. Then how to measure the resistance? By means of this equation. So, it is the ratio of potential difference across the ends of the conductor to current through it. So, this is what you mean by resistance. This is how resistance is measured. The SI unit of resistance is ohm, named after the scientist George Simon Ohm. The SI unit of resistance is ohm. Symbolically, it is represented by this Greek alphabet called omega. This is a Greek alphabet omega. So, SI unit of resistance is ohm. Symbolically, it is represented by this Greek alphabet omega. So, how do you define this ohm? If V is equal to 1 volt and I is equal to 1 ampere, then this R becomes equal to 1 ohm. So, resistance of a conductor is said to be 1 ohm if 1 volt of potential difference applied across its ends allows a current of 1 ampere through it. Understand? When you apply a potential difference of 1 volt across the ends of a conductor, if 1 ampere of current passes through it, resistance of the conductor is said to be 1 ohm. See, this resistance of a conductor, it depends on the following factors. So, resistance depends on material. Different materials have different resistance. Next, for the same material, resistance is different at different temperature. And also the resistance depends on dimensions of the conductor. Dimensions of the conductor. So these are the various factors on which resistance of a conductor depends. Next, here this resistance of a conductor R, it is directly proportional to length L. That means more is the length of the conductor, more will be the resistance. If I take two wires, one of small length, another one of long length, obviously longer wire will have more resistance compared to shorter wire having the same cross section and same material. Next, this resistance of a conductor, it is inversely proportional to area of cross section. Resistance is inversely proportional to area of cross section, cross sectional area. So if this is the wire, if I cut this wire by a perpendicular plane, then the area of this cut face, this is called cross sectional area. Understand? So when a wire is cut by a perpendicular plane, the area of this cut face, it is called a cross sectional area. Resistance is inversely proportional to cross sectional area. That means smaller the area, larger will be the resistance. Or larger the area, smaller will be the resistance. See, this cross section, it will be in the form of a circle. So the cross sectional area is given by pi r square. Pi r square. So area depends on radius. More is the radius, less will be the resistance. That means thick conductors offer small resistance. Thick conductors offer small resistance, and thin conductors, that means radius is small. Thin conductors, they offer large resistance. Like this, R is directly proportional to L. Here you see, resistance depends on dimensions. This is how resistance depends on dimension, length and area of cross section. Therefore, R is proportional to L divided by A. Therefore, this R is equal to some proportionality constant L divided by A. This proportionality constant, which is represented by a Greek alphabet pronounced as rho. This is a Greek letter called rho. So the proportionality constant rho, this is called resistivity or specific resistance of material of the conductor, where rho is a proportionality constant called resistivity or specific resistance of material of conductor. This term rho, it is the property of the material of the conductor. Understand? So here we define resistivity. Resistance is proportional to length, inversely proportional to cross-sectional area. Therefore, you got this term resistivity. Remember, resistivity, it is the property of the material. That's what I have written here. Resistance depends on material. For different materials, resistivity is different. If you take a copper, aluminum, they being different materials, resistivity is different. Resistivity, it is the property of the material. Resistivity does not depend on dimensions. Resistivity does not depend on dimensions. Actually, because of this equation, rho is equal to A R divided by L. We write it like this. So here, this rho, though it depends on A and L, rho does not depend on dimensions, because it is the property of material. Just like thermal conductivity, specific heat, what you learned in PUC first year, they are all material properties. So this resistivity also. Because of this equation, you tend to believe that resistivity depends on dimensions, but not so. For a given material, when all the three terms are interlinked, when any one quantity change, the other quantities will also change, so that this will be a constant. Rho depends on A, R and L. All the three, A, R and L, they are interlinked. If any one changes, the other two also change, such that rho becomes a constant. So the point what I want to impose you on is, resistivity does not depend on dimensions, whereas resistance depends on dimensions. Keep that in mind. So this is about this resistivity. Then how to define this resistivity? Rho is equal to A by L into R. So if A is equal to 1 meter square, L is equal to 1 meter, then rho is equal to R. So resistivity of a material is equal to resistance per unit length of the material of unit cross-sectional area. Resistance per unit length of material of unit cross-sectional area. Resistivity is the resistance of material per unit length having unit cross-sectional area. Now what is the unit? The unit of this resistivity is, see, this is in meter square, this is in meter, this is in ohm. So it is ohm meter. You are going to do this experiment in the laboratory. Determination of resistivity of a given wire by using a meter bridge. There you are going to calculate this resistivity. The resistivity, it is low for metals. It is of the order of 10 to the power of minus 8. It is low for metals 10 to the power of 8 to 11, minus 8 to minus 11. And it is a bit high for alloys, 10 to the power of minus 4 to minus 8 in that range. And for insulators it is quite high. So for different materials it is different. Here you write dimensional formula for resistance. I have given the expression, I have given the unit. You write the dimensional formula for electrical resistance, and also you write the dimensional formula for this resistivity. You do these two things. So, in terms of resistivity, the expression for Ohm's law can be written like this: V is equal to IR. V is equal to IR is rho L divided by A. Rho L divided by A. And this V, it can be written as I by A into rho L. This I by A, it is written as J into rho L, where that J it is equal to I divided by L. This is called current density. You should accustom with these terms. Current density, J. Current density means it is the amount of current passing normally through unit area of the material or conductor. It is amount of current passing normally through unit area of conductor. So it is measured in ampere meter square and is vector quantity. So you write it like this in vector form. This A is a area vector. A is a area vector whose direction is along the outward normal in the direction of current. So the direction of A is outward normal in the direction of current. So this is the term called current density. Here potential difference applied across the conductor of length L V, then electric field in the conductor. Electric field in the conductor, this E is equal to minus V divided by L. So in if I consider the magnitude, it is to be written like this: V divided by L. Therefore this V is equal E into L. You compare these two. This is 1, this is 2. From 1 and 2, this EL is equal to J rho L, this term will cancel. So this E is equal to J into rho. E is equal to J into rho. And further, this J can be written as E divided by rho. J can be written as E divided by rho. Therefore, this J, it can be written as sigma E. See, this rho is resistivity. 1 by rho, reciprocal of resistivity. That reciprocal of resistivity, it is called conductivity. It is called conductivity. And this resistivity and conductivity, they are scalars. But current density and electric field, these are vectors. So in vector form, it can be written like this, sigma E. This is also called as vector form of Ohm's law. V is equal to IR, that is the basic Ohm's law. In terms of current density and electric field, Ohm's law can be written like this. So where sigma is 1 by rho is called electrical conductivity. See, this resistance is measured in ohm. Electrical resistance is ohm. If I consider reciprocal of resistance, this is called conductance. It is called conductance. So electrical conductance is nothing but reciprocal of electrical resistance. So this is 1 divided by ohm. This is, here the unit is Siemens, named after the German scientist. It is represented as Siemens. That is why the unit of this conductivity is Siemens per meter. This is 1 divided by ohm meter. So electrical conductance is like this. Electrical conductivity sigma is equal to 1 divided by rho. So 1 by ohm meter. So it is Siemens per meter. Resistivity means it is the opposition offered by the material to the flow of current. Conductivity means it is the ability of the material to allow the current to flow through it. So resistivity and conductivity, they are reciprocal to each other. So also resistance and conductance. So conductance is the reciprocal of resistance. This one, conductance is the reciprocal of resistance. So in terms of current density, electric field, Ohm's law can be written like this. Sometimes this is also called as vector form of Ohm's law. So these are the basics regarding this current electricity, and we shall continue from here in the next class.